Okay. So how do we master IELTS reading? How do we master IELTS reading? Let me start with this question. What happens during IELTS reading? That is the first thing. For those of you who are freshers to this IELTS thing, IELTS basically is a test that is designed to assess your ability to communicate in English. It's designed to assess your understanding of English language and the ability to communicate in English. So there are four modules or four aspects or four areas that will be tested. Your listening skills will be tested. That part is called IELTS listening. Your writing skills will be tested. That part is called IELTS writing. Your speaking skills will be tested. That part is called IELTS speaking. And your reading skills will be tested. That part is called IELTS reading. And that's what I'm going to be focusing on during today's class, during this lesson. So what happens during this IELTS reading? It is very simple. You will read some passages and you will answer questions based on what you have read. I like to put it that way, but that's not exactly what you should do. I'll come back to that later on. So, but the idea is that what you'll be expected to read some passages. So, for example, on our screen here, this is an example of a IELTS reading passage, crop growing skyscraper. So, my job will be to read this passage, and after reading this passage, I will answer these questions. I have about 13 questions here. Okay, then read another passage. This is another passage here, the Falkirk wheel. After reading this passage, I will answer these questions 14 to 19 and then 20 to 26. So question 14 to 26 is based on this passage titled the Falkirk wheel. Okay, that is the second passage. Then the third one is that I'm going to do, I will read the third passage here, reducing the effect of climate change. And after reading this passage, what do? I will answer the questions. What are the questions connected to this? We have question 27 to 29, and then we have question 30 to 36, and then we have question 37 to 40. So my job, like I said, what is my job? My job is to what? Read the passage and answer the questions. That's what I'm doing during IELTS reading. But that's not exactly how good students do their exam. Students that get high band score in IELTS, they don't actually start by reading the passage. That's what I've noticed. Okay? Students that do what? Students that get high band score in IELTS, what do? They start by reading the question. So, for example, if you want to deal with this particular passage one, the best thing to do is to what? Is to start with what? Start by reading the questions. Okay? Start by doing what? Start by reading the questions and what? Highlighting some keywords there. Okay, you read the questions and you highlight some keywords there. And after that, you now go to the passage and then you try and answer the word, answer the questions. That's what most students do. That helps them to finish all the 40 questions in less than 40 minutes. I hope you guys are following me. Let me know if you are hearing me. Let me be sure that you guys are hearing me. If you are hearing me, I want you to type, I can hear you loud and clear. If you can hear me, let me see your message. Let me know who is hearing. Let me be sure you guys are really, really following me. If you can hear me, I want you to type in the Zoom chat and say, yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Let me know who is hearing me. Let me be sure you guys are following me. Let me hold on for some time. Let me see response. If you can hear me, please type in the chat box. I can hear you loud and clear. Okay, so if you are not hearing, somebody is saying that I should speak up. The problem is not here. I am speaking at the peak of my voice. So the problem is not here. The problem is with your phone. I will advise that you get earphone. Okay, get earphone and plug it into your mobile phone or your smartphone so that you can hear me clearly, because I'm speaking as loud as I can from here. Okay? All right, let's move on. Now, this example I'm showing you here is IELTS academic. Now look at IELTS General. This is IELTS General here. The title of this passage is Your Child at School Today? So like I said, you would answer questions. So we have some questions here. We call this question type true, false, not giving questions. You read this question, understand what is expected of you, and then you come to the passage and come and check what the passage says about the statements and decide whether the statements are true or whether the statements are false or whether the information is not sufficient. We call this type of question true, false, not given questions. So your job on the exam day, what are you going to be doing during IELTS reading? You will be reading passages and answering questions. That's what you are doing. That is the first thing I want you to get from this lesson. Now, the second thing I want to address is this. What is the biggest challenge with IELTS reading? I'm going to tell you two. Okay? There are two big challenges with what? With IELTS reading. Two big challenges that people face on the exam day. Two things that the majority of people complain about after the exam. The number one thing that they will complain about is that time was not enough. If you go to the IELTS exam center and you ask people after the exam, you ask them, how was reading? How was reading? How was IELTS reading? How was IELTS reading? How was IELTS reading? 8 out of 10 people will tell you that, time was not enough. Time was not enough. Time was not enough. That is the biggest challenge. The second biggest challenge is that people will say that what's it called? Passage 3 wasted their time. Some people even say passage 1 wasted their time. It should not be. The most common thing is that people will say that passage 3 wasted their time. Passage 3 wasted their time. But then that's the secondary one. The primary one is the issue of time. Time. So learning to manage your time is extremely important. It is something that you need to what? You need to learn to do before the exam day. You need to learn how to what? How to quickly answer the questions on the what? On the exam day. And for you to do that, let me give you some things that you must learn to do. Some things that you need to practice doing now. You need to practice doing these things now before the exam day. You need to practice reading quickly. We call this thing speed reading or skimming. Some people call it skimming. You read quickly. Okay? You need to practice reading quickly. Practice scanning for keywords. Okay? You need to practice thinking quickly. You need to learn to think fast. If you want to overcome that challenge of time, you need to also learn to what? Skip stubborn questions and come back to them. In other words, if a question is wasting your time, skip it and come back to it later. Don't let it waste your time. Don't let it steal your scores. I do that a lot whenever I'm practicing IELTS reading. If you have watched some of my explanations on YouTube, some of the reading lessons, some reading passages I've solved on YouTube, you will notice that sometimes I skip some questions, I come back to them later on. If any question is wasting my time, I skip it and come back to it later. It's one of the things you need to learn to do to maximize your time during IELTS reading. Okay? Skip stubborn questions. You also need to learn to do guesswork with some questions. Some questions will be difficult for you to really figure out and settle. So some people will just be wondering, okay, is it true? Is it false? Is it not given? Is it this? Is it that? If you are trying to figure out which one is which one, just pick one and move on. Do guesswork and move on. Okay? Do guesswork and move on. It's something you need to just learn to do. Okay? I tell people, trust your gut. Sometimes your gut might be right. Sometimes I pick some answers and I'm not really, I can't really say why that answer is correct. For example, let me put it this way. If I'm doing maybe multiple choice questions now, sometimes I might pick A. I might not be able to say exactly why A is correct, But I can tell you that B is not correct. I can tell you that C is not correct. I can tell you that D is not correct. But that A is looking somehow. It might be correct, but I'm not sure why it is correct. I'll just pick it. That's what I call guesswork, calculated guesswork. Some people call it elimination method. Okay, so sometimes you need to learn to do that because some questions will waste your time. IELTS examiners have trained themselves to be able to what? Come up with questions. They come up with questions that waste people's time, waste the time of candidates. So you don't let any question waste your time. So these are things that you need to learn to do to help you handle the issue of what? Of time. And then finally, you need to practice what I call the speed drill. Practice the speed drill. What is the speed drill? Speed drill means that what? You practice solving full IELTS reading test in 55 minutes. Why am I saying 55 minutes? Passage 1 or section 1, you spend 10 minutes. Okay? Section 2, you spend 15 minutes. And then section 3, you spend 25 minutes. And then the remaining 10 minutes, you use the remaining 10 minutes to go through all your answers and make necessary corrections. Okay? This is what I call the speed drill. Or we call it, sometimes I call it the 55 minutes drill. Okay? You set your phone alarm and you work with this. When you practice doing this, it's going to help to improve your speed. Hope you get my point now. So these are things that you need to learn to do now and get used to them before your exam day. Hope you get my point. Now, this issue of IELTS reading, what I have noticed is that people do not prepare the right way. Okay? And that brings me to this next question. What is the best way to prepare for IELTS reading? What is the best way? The best way to prepare for IELTS reading is to do what you will be doing on the exam day. What did I say? The best way to prepare for IELTS reading is to do the thing that you will be doing on the exam day. What will you be doing on the exam day? What will you do on the exam day? You will be solving questions. You will be reading passages and you'll be looking at questions and you'll be solving them. That is what you are going to be doing on the exam day. So the best way to prepare for IELTS reading is to practice answering questions. That is the best way. That is the best way. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the best way. And you are not just going to do it by, just practicing one question and then you say you have mastered it. No, you have to practice lots of questions. Lots and lots of questions. Okay? You practice I give people targets. Some people I tell them practice a minimum of 40. Some people I tell them 50. Some people I tell them 60. Okay? It depends on your level. But you need to do a lot of questions, practice a lot of questions. That is the best way to prepare for IELTS reading. You don't prepare for IELTS reading by watching YouTube videos. Okay? Some of you think that, okay, by watching videos on YouTube about strategies for solving questions in IELTS reading, that way that can help you prepare for it. No, it doesn't work that way. Some people think that, okay, if I go and check what this person said on YouTube about tips for success in IELTS reading, tips for success. Some people even send me a message. They will say, can you give me some tips for success in IELTS reading? I'll tell tips. I don't have any tip. The only tip I have is go and practice questions. Okay? That's the only tip that works because the tip I'm going to give you, if you don't get used to it before the exam day, you will not remember it on the exam day. There are some things that will just evaporate from your head. On the exam day, those things will just fly off. Why? Because you have not practiced them. You have not gotten accustomed to those things. It is the thing that you practice that you get used to. So you need to get used to what? Practicing. You need to, engage yourself with lots of what? Lots of questions. Okay? So you need to have a strategic plan. If you are going to master IELTS reading in 30 days, that's just 4 weeks. 4 weeks plus 2 days or 3 days. If you're going to master IELTS reading in 30 days, you need to have a strategic plan. Okay, what am I going to do? Okay, the plan that you want to develop must include what you are going to do, when you are going to do it, okay, how you are going to do it, okay. I mean, where, for example, let me be more specific now. When I say you want to master it within 30 days and you want to plan your work and work your plan. So let's look at the first part of plan your work. Plan your work means that, okay, we have 4 weeks in 30 days. So what am I going to do in week 1? You need to write it out. How many hours do I have to study in a day? How many minutes do I have in a day to study? I recommend a minimum of 2 hours per day. That is what I recommend. If you want to do this thing in 30 days. If you have 60 days, then you can say 1 hour per day. But if it's 30 days, then 2 hours is the minimum. 2 hours is the minimum. You can do 2 hours, you can do 3 hours, you can do 4 hours. 4 hours is enough. Once you exceed 4 hours, you are already going to be, your brain will get tired. You are going to get fatigued. So you are not going to be productive after 4 hours. So 2 hours minimum. So you need to ask yourself, okay, what time am I going to be studying? Do I want to study from 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. in the morning? Or do I want to study from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m.? Or do I want to do it in the late mornings, maybe 10 a.m. in the morning till 12 noon? Or 9 a.m. to 11? Or do I want to do it in the afternoon, maybe from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m.? Or do I want to do it in the evening from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. or late at night from 10 p.m. to 12 midnight? You need to be clear about the time. You need to be clear about the place where you're going to be studying. Okay, where am I going to be doing it in my bedroom? Am I going to be doing it at the dining? Am I going to be doing it in my office? Am I going to be doing it in the library? Am I going to be doing the practice in the church, in the mosque, in the playground? Where do you want to be doing your practice? The time, the place, the location. These are things that should be included in the issue of planning your work. Okay? You need to ask yourself, what materials will I use? Do I need to print out materials? Do I need to print out my IELTS reading passages like this one now? Do I need to print out my reading tests? If you are preparing for paper-based IELTS, then I would recommend that you print out your practice test and practice on paper. If you are preparing for computer-based IELTS, then I would recommend that you get a computer and practice with computer. Somebody says, I don't have a computer. Go and buy one. It's not difficult. Go and buy. If you don't have a computer, go and buy one or go and borrow one. Okay? If you really, really want to master this thing, you should practice with a computer if you are doing computer-based tests. Practicing with a phone is going to limit you. It's not going to give you the feel of what computer-based test actually looks like. So it's best to get a computer. You can borrow somebody's computer for 1 month. If you don't want to buy a computer, borrow somebody's computer for 1 month. Tell the person, beg the person, appeal to the person, or you can rent it. Tell the person you want to rent their computer. Give the person maybe 5,000 naira or 10,000 naira and rent it. Just get a computer to use. Okay? For 30 days and immerse yourself in this thing. So what tools are you going to use? Tools include the printed materials or a computer to practice with. What tools are you going to use? Tools include the lessons that you're going to follow. For example, we organize lessons like this regularly. We have free classes, we have paid classes. So the tools include participating in the lessons. We have lots of, things that we teach during our paid classes that helps students to understand all the different strategies, and then we treat lots of examples. That's part of tools. Okay, so what tools are you going to use? That's part of what? Planning your work. So after you have drafted your plan, the next thing is to now what? Work your plan. In other words, stick to what you have planned that you will do. If you plan that, okay, every morning from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. you're going to study, then set your phone alarm, and then once it's 6 a.m., get busy. Let me add this. Another aspect of planning your work is, another aspect of tools when it comes to planning your work is your notebook. There must be a book for your reading, for your IELTS reading, just like you have a book for other parts of your IELTS. There must be a book where you record where you write your answers. Okay? This is part of your work, your reading. There must be a way to keep records of your work. Very, very important. Okay? So you must draft a plan for your study and then work out your plan. Okay? So look at it, ladies and gentlemen. Day one. This is a plan I want to give to you. I'm going to give you a 30-day plan. I'll give you a general picture of the 30-day plan now. And then in our next class, we're going to be looking at other aspects. Now, day one, what should you do on day one of your 30-day plan? Learn about the question types and the steps for solving them. There are 7 question types in IELTS reading. Some question types are easy to handle, some are difficult to handle, some are problematic, some are very, very challenging. You need to learn about all the different question types and learn about the steps for solving them. Number 1, we have what you call gap filling questions. Number 2, we have what you call true, false, not given questions. We have yes, no, not given questions. Then we have what you call matching information questions, matching statement questions, matching names, matching sentence endings, and matching headings. Those are the different question types that we have. Then we have what you call multiple choice questions. You need to be able to identify all these different question types, and you need to know what is expected of you when it comes to these different question types. That is what you do on day one. That is the first thing. So you learn about the different question types, and then you learn about the steps for solving the different question types. There are 4 generic steps for solving all question types. What is step 1? Read the question. Read the question and identify keywords. Step 2, go to the passage and read and scan for the keywords. Step 3, once you locate the keyword, focus on that part of the passage that contains the keyword, study it, analyze it, and extract your answer. That's step 3. And then step 4 is what we call correction, self-correction. In other words, check your answer and be sure that you have written the correct answer. You can do that after solving a particular set of questions, and you can also do that after marking your work. So those are the steps that you learn on day one. Those are the things that you get yourself familiar with on the first day. On the first day. I hope you're getting my point. Now, on day 2, from day 2 to day 10, what do you do? Day 2 to day 10 is for you to focus on 2 question types. You see these 2 question types, to me, they are the easiest. And let me tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to get band score of 7.0 and above in IELTS reading, you need to master these 2 question types. You cannot afford to get any of them wrong. You need to become an expert in dealing with these 2 question types, gap filling questions and true, false, not given questions. Such that if you get any gap filling question during the exam, you will get all of them correct. If you get true, false, not given questions on the exam day, you get all of them correct. That's the level where you want to get to. If you cannot get to that level, then you can be sure that you're not going to get above 7.0 in your exam. Anybody that wants to get above 7.0 in the exam in IELTS reading must be able to trash gap filling and true, false, not given questions. So after mastering the question types and the steps of solving the different question types, the next thing to now do is to attack gap filling questions and true, false, not given questions. Study them. Study the steps of solving them. Watch detailed explanation of examples of gap filling questions and true, false, not given questions. Those are things that will take you through, that we are going to take you through during our training, during our classes. Okay? You're going to see me solve lots and lots of examples. Okay? And then you now practice on your own. You practice on your own. Because it's not just about watching me solve questions. On the exam day, you're not going to watch me solve questions. You are going to be solving questions yourself. So it's not just enough to watch me solve questions. You need to go and apply the strategies that I've taught you. So on the second day of your 30-day plan, you practice lots of gap filling questions and true, false, not given questions. On day 3, you repeat. You look for another set of gap filling and true false not given and practice. On day 4, you do the same thing. Day 5, you do the same thing until you get to day 10, gap filling and true false not given questions. That's what you do. Okay? Then day 11 to 15, that's where you now deal with matching questions. You deal with matching questions. We have matching information questions, matching features questions, and matching sentence endings questions. You start with this set of questions first. Okay? That's day 11 to 15. And then day 16 to 20, that's when you deal with what? That's when you deal with matching heading questions. Okay? Day 16 to 20, what do? Matching heading questions and multiple choice questions. You see, multiple choice questions, to me, I personally believe that multiple choice questions are the most difficult question types in IELTS reading. Okay? As a matter of fact, if you do IELTS reading and there's any question that you want to solve last, it should be multiple choice questions. Okay? If multiple choice questions are giving you a problem on the exam day, just write B for all of them and move on. Don't waste your time. They are problematic for most candidates. Okay, but then there are strategies for dealing with them. Okay, those strategies, I mean, we teach them in detail during our classes. I'll probably address them maybe during one of these free classes that I'm doing. So day 1, let me go over it again before I tell you what will happen from day 21 to 30. Day 1, learn about the question types and learn about the steps for solving them. That's what you do on day 1. Day 2 to 10, learn about gap filling questions and true false not given questions and practice lots of those question types. Okay? Day 11 to 15, matching information questions, matching features questions. Matching features are also called matching names, and matching sentence endings. That's what you deal with on day 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Then on day 16, day 17, day 18, day 19, and day 20, you deal with matching heading questions and multiple choice questions. And then finally, day 21 to 30 is when you now start doing full reading tests. You get Cambridge IELTS 19 test 1. Solve everything from question 1 to 40. You time yourself 55 minutes. After solving, you mark your work and you do self-correction. You get Cambridge IELTS 19 test 2. Solve everything from question 1 to 40. You time yourself 55 minutes. Okay? That's what you do on day 21. Day 22, get Cambridge IELTS 19, test 3 and test 4. You solve the 2 of them on day 22. On day 23, get Cambridge IELTS 18, test 1 and test 2. Solve it. I mean, like that. 2 full reading tests per day from day 21 to day 30. By the time that's 10 days. By the time you do that, you will have solved a total of 20 full reading tests. That's a lot. That's a lot. If you can do 3 full reading tests per day, it's okay. But 2 is optimal. 2 is optimal. The optimum. You understand? So these are things that you do. Intensive. This is a kind of what's it called now? Intensive 30-day plan. Okay? There's something to do every day. And a minimum of what? A minimum of 1 hour. Sorry. A minimum of 2 hours per day. That's what you engage. That's how you engage this thing. I hope you get my point. So these are things that you put to work. These are things that you apply during your what? During your preparation. And I guarantee you that what? If you follow these steps, this 30-day plan, I guarantee you that what? If you follow this 30-day plan religiously, you work the plan. Like I said, plan your work and you work the plan. And you do thorough intensive correction. Okay? After, your reading skills will improve significantly. Okay? Now, if you follow this plan and your reading skills don't improve, what it basically means is that what? You need to give yourself more time. You understand now? And the reason is that what? Your vocabulary might not be adequate enough. If your vocabulary is not rich enough, what I've noticed is that some people struggle with moving from 6.5 to 7. If somebody is always struggling with that, issue of moving from 6.5 to 7, the challenge is usually vocabulary. Okay, vocabulary. That person needs to work on building up their word, building up their vocabulary, and that's going to involve a lot of what? Extensive reading and study. A lot of extensive reading and studying. That's going to be a lesson for another. That's beyond the scope of today's class. But so, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to wrap it up on that note for today. I hope you have learned one or two things. Let me just take one or two questions before I round up. Let me take one. If you have any question, just drop your question in the Zoom chat. Let me just take one or two questions, and then before I round up. Any question? Any question? Does anybody have any question? Let me see. Okay. Okay, I think I've addressed this question here. Any other question? Does anybody have any question? It seems there is no question. All right. If there is no question, I'm going to wrap it up on that note for tonight. Tomorrow we are going to be looking at another aspect. So join me again tomorrow, same time. It's just a 30 minutes class. You can see it's just 30 minutes. 30 minutes class. Join me tomorrow again, same time, and I'm going to be addressing another aspect of this issue of what? How to master IELTS reading. So thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your evening.